This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
This episode contains no spoilers, but does mention the following series: Throne of Glass, Crescent City, ACOTAR, The Vampire Diaries, Dark Olympus, and Plated Prisoner. For full list, please see show notes.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, your weekly deep dive into the YA literature and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie.
And today we are discussing a spoiler-free episode of A Forbidden Fate. This is the upcoming novel by our very good friend, Kaven Hirning.
And for even more excitement, we get to discuss it spoiler-free with the author herself, podcast regular. Kaven, welcome back. You know we love having you. Thanks for taking the time and being here today.
Yay.
Hello. I'm just joining just now. I just got here. I would do this for the rest of my life, by the way. I would just sit here and ramble on about every single thing. I don't know what I'm doing with my life, but I am just reading.
How are you finding the time?
You are powering through.
And they're not skinny books.
No, they're big, chunky boys. And I'm just like, I think too, like, after I posted Lightlark, I got like such a good feedback to like the review. And for me, it's because my like niche or whatever is SJM, IC content, blah, blah, blah. That I'm like, no one gives a shit if I'm reading book, because I read, but like no one cares. They want Cassian. Like that's what they want. And I'm not one of those people that's like, I'm trying to break away from my role. Like, no, I love being the people's Cassian. Like it's changed my life. Why would I?
Tom Felton is like that. Everybody's like, I'm trying to distract myself. And he just leans into it. He's like, I'm at Harry Potter the World this weekend, y'all. Come say hi.
Yeah.
I'm like, people love it. Even if I post something about my book, they're like, all I see is Cassian. I don't get mad at that. I'm like, good. That's like that's literally what I've done. So like, why would I be? Anyways, but I didn't think people wanted like reviews and stuff. And then whenever they were like, no, we do, I was like, oh, buckle in, babes. Because I read fast.
I have a friend, Eddie, actually. He sent me one of your reviews. He's like, oh, this girl said that she liked Lightlark better than ACOTAR. And I was like, what? And he was he's like, I think you would like this book. He's not on
Wait,
Book
have y'all
Talk.
pre-ordered that?
I have, yeah.
I tried to make it clear in the comments that like, that ACOTAR, I realize now whenever I say ACOTAR that I'm summarizing like the entire series into one little acronym. I'm in the first book. Obviously, I don't know where Lightlark is going, but it is way better, leagues better than A Court of Thorns and Roses, the first book.
Mm-hmm.
SJM did that to herself, though.
Yes, that's true. That is true. But like, I could see Lightlark being better just because the plot is there as well as the romance is when people are like, is it a love triangle? I'm like, I don't know how to answer this because it's not, what do I know? There's something else going on that I can't say because it's like, let me just tell you like the biggest plot twist of the book. But like, it was very, very good.
When I first started reading book one of ACOTAR, we'll say like the first book, I kept saying, Laura, it's a triangle, it's a love triangle. And Laura had to keep saying, it's not a love triangle. It's not a love triangle. And I didn't understand what she was saying until I had this aha moment. And I was like, it's like Damon and Elena and like the concept of it and Stefan.
It's the golden years.
It's peak Vampire Diaries where there was no triangle.
Right.
You know, there was no triangle the way it was with Catherine and them. But there is a clear cut where she just, this is not who I was, is not who I am. And it's just beautiful.
That's like my favorite trope, I think. is just like who I was is not who I am. And therefore my relationships and the way I react to the relationships are going to change. Love that. Could not like it more. I am obsessed.
Is there a trope that is in your book, A Forbidden Fate, that you love in particular?
I don't know that my book has any trope. Like, people ask me this all the time, and I'm like, I don't know.
You don't think so?
Well, you have enemies to lovers.
Oh, enemies to lovers, yes. Yeah.
There's a forced proximity, is there not?
Yes, there is. Thank you. Thank you for helping me. Love y'all. My parents. I love you so much.
Do you consider the sleeping bags the one bed trope in the woods equivalent?
I guess, but it's between two characters that maybe you wouldn't expect. But so yeah, sure. There's a couple of tropes in there, and I'm also trying to remember like the new chapters. Also, like my brain is fried. But no. So there's enemies to lovers, to possible enemies again. Forced proximity, arranged marriage ish, and the chosen one definitely is in there. But other than that, I don't know. It's like a bunch of people just in the woods getting drunk, living their life. They don't know what's going on. And that is definitely planned and not because I was just making it up as I went.
We do have a bunch of people. Out of all of your characters, I'm looking at a list of them.
Oh, I love you.
Who is your absolute favorite? Who do we love here?
Okay. So the thing is that I'm like halfway through writing book 2. And as you know, like characters. So like, I'm going to try to answer just from book 1.
And you have posted quotes from book 2, something about an incompetent woman. I did my research. Let me, yes, I love this.
I feel like this is like a parent situation. Like, I love all my kids differently.
I love them all differently. I will say that my favorites are probably from book 1, and then I'll kind of go into book 2 a little bit. But from book 1, it's Brazen because I just wrote my husband as a character with blue eyes. Because I already have a book written called Master of the Crowns where I wrote the main male character that looks just like Cody. So I'm like, this time he's just going to act like Cody, but he's not going to look like Cody. So I love Brazen. And then Torrent, obviously, is my child. He is my boy. He is the character I have the most fun with because, like, after the first book, I'm like, now I can do anything with him. Like, I can just make him do anything, and people will be like, he is a book talk Cassian, if that makes sense. He's like the himbo that really is dumb. And like, but he means well. But with book 2, right now, my favorite character is Lynn. He is my absolute favorite. He is doing the most. He is living his life. And then there is a new character I'm not going to say the name of.
You feel like people are going to be torn between like their book significant others with this? With like new characters and the characters from the first book? Maybe,
but I think that I write it in such a way that it's like, this is purely sexual.
Oh.
One is like, and then the other one's like, shit, I can't touch this guy. So you'll see.
I can touch this other person.
I could touch this other guy and that would be okay. There's like this one scene, without giving too much. This is book 2, which I know we're trying to talk about book 1, but whatever. I'm this far into a margarita. There's like this one scene because there's a place in Verdana where like it's for mistresses only. So like you literally, if you're a female, you can't come in unless you're a mistress to someone. And they're trying to get in here to get information, blah, blah, blah. But she can't touch Brazen. So she has to pretend she's the mistress of someone else and they have to sell it. So it's a very fun scene because Brazen obviously can't do anything about it. And it's another character that has shown that he is very hot and very powerful in another way.
We haven't met him yet, right?
And no, he is in book 2. And they have to sell it. She has to be a mistress. She cannot be the princess. They cannot know who she is. And she's not allowed in this particular town where this particular person is unless she is a man's whore. So it's really fun.
Support sex workers.
It's a great scene. I'm having the best time writing it. I'm like, But it's also just because I'm a giant whore. Like, it's the basis of who I am as a human being. And I love it. I say that with pride. So like, I love it. But book one, I would say Brazen and Torrent are and Teddy. I love Teddy too.
I also love Teddy.
So if they're your favorite, are those the ones that you relate to the most? Or is like, these are my favorite, but I'm most like Adalia, or I'm most like Lorna?
Right. I think they're my favorite because it's, Brazen is like Cody. And I think that I'm probably the most like Stig, the bard, because he's just doing his best. He's not very good at it. But he's still trying, and he's keeping a good attitude about it, and he uses humor to deflect everything. And so also book two, Rand Stig is like my boy. But yeah, I would say that they're my favorite because Torrent is just like so fun because again, he's just there to like have a good time and to clobber some heads in. And then Brazen is just Cody on page. And I love Cody. So he's my favorite.
Where/how did you come up with these names?
I didn't. Okay. The only reason that I came up with Brazen is because it's already a word and I just spelled it different because I was like, he's very brazen. And so that's like how I thought of it the whole time. And I was like, what? I'm just going to make his name Brazen. I'm not clever. Let's just do what it is. Every other name though, I had no plan for this story. I literally was like, it's two people who can't touch each other. I don't know their names. And I would just write them as I went. And I did not change them. I was like, okay, that's their name, I guess. So I wish I had like a cool answer to be like, it's because this means this, but I just wrote them down.
That seems part of the writing process though, too, because it's like, if you try to hyper fixate on the name for too long, especially when you have steam and you're like, I'm just chugging away.
Just gotta get it out there.
Just get, you know, whether you want the plot, you just want to word vomit all of these ideas before they go away.
You want to get somewhere. You don't want to get too hung up on everything. And also, like, I didn't know any other characters besides the two main characters. So, like, I didn't know their names and I didn't know who else was going to be in it. So even like in chapter 2, whenever it's like you meet Torrent and Lynn and Lorna, I didn't know those characters were going to exist. These were not, I was just talking. I'm like, oh, he's there with someone. This guy's name is Torrent and he's a giant, long, blonde, Viking looking guy. And then Lynn is like not tiny, but tiny compared to Torrent. And he's this, and Lorna's I didn't know that they were even going to stay in the story, let alone like, so no thought, head empty, no thoughts. But love it. I love their names. So it worked out.
Have you had a shift from I'm writing this book to, or these books to, these books are writing themselves? The characters are just telling me what they're doing.
Yeah, in a way, it's because I've written other books before. And honestly, I like, this isn't me like trying to tear down my work or anything, but I like the writing style in the other books a little bit more than in this one, because this one's very easy. This one's very like, here you go. But this is like kind of like paying tribute to like my followers and stuff that have built me up for the Cassian and for the characters and for my inner circle content. So it's the same way as my skits, like you were saying, where like, here's the plan and now it's writing itself. It's just like the skits. I press record and whatever happens, happens. And if I'm like, that's kind of cute, I'll post it. And that's kind of what was happening with this. It was like an homage to the people who have like supported me through Book Talk and what they like of me that I do. And it kind of just was a skit. It was just a long skit that wrote itself.
That's so sweet.
No plan. Like, just pressed record and was like, dee.
So that's how the content is too. You're like, oh wait, it just kind of comes to you in the moment. It's not I have this really good idea. I gotta hop out of the shower this second.
Yeah, if I think about it at all, before I press record, it looks contrived and it looks weird. And I like, for me, I mean, I don't know if anybody else would be able to tell, but I can tell that I'm not really the personality of the person anymore. It's like I'm Kaven being someone else. But whenever I just press record, it's like my natural response to myself. I sound crazy, but like it's my natural response to myself. So I never have to re-record anything. It's just like, that's just what I said to that, because that's how I think that they would naturally react. And I think that that's just it. That's how I record my skits. And that's what this book is. It's like, I have a different book that I was going to release first that's written a little bit differently. And also like definitely a different story, definitely different characters. But I was like, you know what? Like I am only truly like allowed really to do this because I have so many people that like have been so kind and so giving and so loving and follow me and like check on my videos all the time. Like I want to do something that's like akin to my content and put that out first and be like, hey, this is just kind of like a silly little thing. Here you go. Like, love you. So that's kind of, I don't know. It did write itself, to answer your question, to round all the way back.
When you started the actual like writing process, like putting thoughts, out there to record, writing, all that stuff. I remember you saying that it was going to be a standalone. Yeah. And then in the process, we are getting a book 2. Is this going to be a duology or are we just like...
it'll definitely be 3 books. And I thought it was going to be a standalone because I thought it was just going to be like a cute little story of people who couldn't touch and then like figuring out. But as I was writing it, I think I got on like page 282 and I was like, there is no conclusion in sight. Like, what am I supposed to do? Just be like, oh, there you go. So I was like, this is definitely going to be multiple books. So the night that I was on page 282, I remember it. I like sat down and I wish I had the paper here because I write very loose notes of like, this is kind of what I want to happen. And we'll round it up here. Like, I don't know what's going to happen in between, but this is where we'll end this book. And then I was like, and then this is what needs to happen next. And then I was like, but that's so much too. So after I like wrote down like where I wanted it to start and where I wanted it to end, it was like, that's so much. It needs to be divided into 3.
Well, and how the first book currently that we know leaves us. I mean, I don't want to say it's a cliffhanger, but right. You're left in a way that you're like, okay, let me go into the next, like, where's the next book already? Like, where's the conclusion? Because this is the conclusion right now. And you can see where it's going to go, or we think it's going to go. That's what I should say.
Yes. When people ask me if it's a cliffhanger where it ends, I'm like, no, I don't think it is. But I'm also, because it's not one of those like whenever you read Amber's book or whenever you read like House of Sky and Breath or like something where it's like, what? Or when you read Glow, or specifically when you read Ledge, where it's like, I can't breathe. It's more of like, oh, okay. Like we're just segueing into the next, like there's unknowns, but it's, I don't think it's a cliffhanger. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I think it's more of just like
it feels like a good way to end the first book, but like it's still set up for like,
yes,
like excited for the next book. Like
where
are we going now? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's perfect for that.
I think so too, and that's why I'm trying to like write the second one so fast because I want it to be out like 2 or 3 months after the first one, so that it's like, because I genuinely think the second book is stronger. So like, I'm like, this is just the first one, silly.
Well, it's funny because I know we talk about television a lot and everybody talks about, if you have a good, strong first season, sometimes what happens in the second season is like a second season slump. However, I feel like the reverse happens with that, with writers, and you have like, even as a strong first book, that second book, you kind of just like, your characters more, the audience more, you're already invested. So, you already know there's more of a grasp. So I think everybody always thinks like, especially when you're writing regularly, you're like, this is stronger. Oh my God, I can't, and it's like when you go back on even like old social posts, you're just like, I can't believe that was my first post or something. Or like, I learned how to edit things. I didn't know voiceover.
That's traumatic to look back at old posts, but yes, like sometimes I'll be like going through and reading like the first book, like after the formatting's done. And I'm like, what even is this? But like, not to be mean to myself, but I'm just like, oh, it's just so different now. Like, it's just, I'm at a different place with the character. So I'm just like, oh, they don't know anything. They literally don't know anything. And so it's just like, okay.
Are you still on track for fall this year, or has that been like shift? Okay.
Yeah, so I think like October probably. hopefully like before Halloween, because I don't want to like release it during holidays.
So you are currently writing book 2. Book 1 is done, but done. So, but it's not out. So you have to go back and like talk about it all the time. Obviously you're here with us. Is it hard to stay in the book 2 mindset when the demand is for book 1?
Yes. Like I'm having trouble even like, going back and forth. Even now I'm like doing terrible, but it's because I'm like, it's almost harder for me to go back to book 1 mindset because I'm in book 2 mindset, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So whenever I'm asked questions, I want to answer things like from what I know now all the way back. And then I have to remember that this stick needs to move this way. And we're talking about this. So I think it's difficult, but I think that I don't know if that's an everybody thing or if it's just because I'm like a big old dumbass, but I am like, I don't know what's going on. It's difficult, but you know what? I'm still very fortunate that people are even asking about any of them. So at the end of the day, I'm like, and also you would think, not to ramble, but you would think I'm looking at my manuscript that I would be more in book 1 because I've literally read it like 8 times this month, but I'm still in book 2. Like my mind is somewhere. I'm like, that's cute. It's season 1, Steve Harrington.
Yeah. It's like, okay.
I love you, but
the good stuff is coming. Yeah. So then with book 1 and a lot of book 1s in the fantasy genre, it's a lot of world building. And of course, like that there's world building in this. What was something that was kind of difficult for your world building? Was there just something that you just really wanted to nail?
The whole thing. Mm-hmm. So in the other series that I've written, I'm like, pride myself in the world building. I'm like, it's all there because I also have like the world building books completely filled out cover to cover. And I know the world completely. In this book, like I said, head empty, no thoughts, just going for it. And I realized going forward, I'm like, oh, I need to know what is going on. So for me, it was like, I wanted, and this might not be a good strategy, but I wanted my characters to be like as confused as I was. I felt like I was method writing, if you will. I'm like, I don't know either. I don't know what the hell's going on. And Brazen doesn't care. He's like, but now that I have the rest of the series planned out, I actually appreciate book 1's world building so much more because it like comes back. Like, I don't know, like the things that are said that are kind of like dismissive in this, it's like, oh no, that was a big thing that person just said. And it doesn't make sense to these 2 characters because they're both on their own mission and they're not like diverting from, well, they're diverting, but like Idalia's like, I'm going to save Verdana. And Brazen's like, I'm going to prove to my dad that I'm worthy. And that's it. But when you come back, it's fun to read it. I'm like, oh, smart, Kaven, smart.
I did a thing.
I did a thing that I did not know that I was doing, but smart. So I wanted to nail the world building because again, I'm good at it elsewhere, but also I kind of like that it's left up to, like, you don't really know what's going on outside if there's 3 kingdoms stacked on top of each other. And they're just trying to go from here to here without disturbing the middle. And that's it. And that's all you really need to know in book 1. So.
And I think it helps that, like you said, the reader is learning. Some of the characters are learning when things pop up where, the characters are confused. And naturally, because usually Laura, reads a lot of the things before she suggests them to me. She'll, like, especially from a fantasy standpoint, I'll be like, well, what does this mean? And she'll either tell me yes, or she'll tell me we got to wait to find out. But this is a perfect example of I can't do that. She's like, I don't know. I'm reading the same thing as you are.
Right.
But the character themselves, I'm going to be vague here. They don't know what their power more or less, or what they're doing, or what might not be doing, or what something might mean. And everybody looks to that person and it's just like, oh, this thing happened. And I can't tell you more than you just saw. So here we are. Yeah.
That's kind of like what I wanted to, where it's like, I don't know. I think that I think that the book 1 becomes stronger. That might be lazy writing. I don't care. But book 1 becomes stronger once you know what's going on later. you can look back and be like, ah.
But that's always the fun part, because even when you go through a reread, you're like, it's just like when we talk about Marvel or, you know, something where you see the Easter eggs. You're like, oh, it feels very full circle, whether it was intentional or not. It feels like an homage to the people who've been like following along the whole time.
Yes. And like for y'all, y'all read like the very first draft, unedited, nothing. And so I'm like, a lot changed. Not like the synopsis is still the same, but like there's more now in the middle piece. Like whenever they go somewhere in the middle, I don't know what they go to Ida Xena. There's more that's happening there, and there's like extra chapters and stuff. So I'm like, I think it's a little bit better explained now what's going on there, but still very elusive, very much like this is just happening. And why do the characters not care as much? Like, it is genuinely like following me and Cody through stuff, because we would find someplace like that and be like, who cares? And everyone else would be like, we need to stay. We need to figure it out. And me and Cody would be like, fine. We'll be fine. Let's get to what we're doing. Let's cross this off the list, then circle back. But I think people will maybe be frustrated, but I think it's better explained. Shout out to all editors. You are truly, Sam, you too, MVPs of the entire operation. None of us would even know what to do without people like that. So I kept changing everything. And she was like, I understand what you're doing. I see the vision. I see what you're trying to, but at the end of the day, you're going to keep doing this, and it's never going to be a finished product. And like, remember, she was like really my hype girl. She was like, remember that your followers like you, and they're not like expecting Lord of the Rings or like, they're just what, like, so you have to like come to a decision with yourself where is it ever going to be enough? And the answer is probably no for yourself. So just, it's good. Give it to me, stop, and let me do the thing that I need to do. And then let's get this book out. So yeah, I would say that I would never stop if I didn't one and done it. If I didn't go, okay, that's it. I don't want to look at it again. I'm going to read it and go, oh my God, Kaven, I don't care. Take it away. Take it away from me. Get it out of my sight.
So as an author, and you, of course, you are an author.
Yes, of course.
We have seen on your Instagram and your TikTok that some of your characters have fan art.
I know.
What was that like? What was that like for you?
It's surreal because, listen, it feels like a lifetime, and it also feels like 3 days that I've been on Book Talk. I don't know if y'all can relate to that, where it was like, what was life before this? But also you look and you're like, it hasn't been that long, actually.
Yeah, it's not that long.
Yeah. So it's like, looking at it is surreal to me, because it's like, first of all, the fact that I even put aside the time in my very packed, busy life to write a book, but have people care that I'm writing a book and have people saying they're going to buy a book. Honestly, that makes me want to cry. And I'm also sweating again. But then on top of that, they're sending me art of characters that they have not read about. Mm-hmm. And they're nailing it. They're like on the money every time. And I'm just like, I think that any author or any creator of anything, having someone make something from your own creation and send it to you is like the sweetest form of love to me. I'm just like, it's an act of service. It's a gift. It's all of these things, but they haven't even read. They could read the book and be like, this is straight up trash, but they don't care. They're just like, we love you. And here's your character. And I'm like, I feel like that's a dream though, right? For authors to have people make art of your characters. I feel like that's,
and it's so different because I know you've commissioned art too, mm-hmm. but so you can have like more feedback and involved, especially with, yes. I don't want to say the side characters, but like, we have the art of like Brazen and Lynn and like everybody that you've had commissioned, like exactly how you've imagined it. But then to have additional renditions where people are just like you said, it's an act of service, it's gift giving, it's quality time in a way that they spent this time to create this thing.
It makes me want to cry.
It's just so pure and selfless too.
Yes.
I would think. We're like, this made me think of you, or this is kind of my rendition of these characters I know nothing about, solely based on what you put out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
That makes me feel like, first of all, they're like horrendously mistaken and they think that I'm someone that I'm not, or that they're genuinely just the sweetest, most loving, giving people on the planet. I feel the same way when someone sends me a book that they wrote, you know, and they're like, I thought of you specifically. I like went out of my way to find out how to send this to you. I thought of you when I wrote this, or not wrote this, but like thought of you to send it to. I'm like, this is your child. This is your baby. And that's what talent is. I can't draw to save my free. I am Feyre. I am like not good. Just kidding. Feyre lovers. Like, I know that she's probably fantastic. But so for me, it's like, that takes time. That takes hours. And it's a character that you don't know. Like that you haven't resonated with, that you're not like, I'm drawing Idalia because I like Idalia, or I'm drawing Brazen because I love Brazen. I'm drawing them because I love Kaven. And that to me is so sweet. It makes me want to cry. Like, for real, I've drank too much. I might start crying.
Do you have any sort of feelings about putting this book out there in the world? You know, we can't please everybody, right? Even though we might want to. So how do you even prepare for something like that?
Yeah, I think I'm like split, because I'm a little bit conditioned to the online scrutiny and like just public opinion in general, because I'm already not, I guess I would say a public figure, because it's, you know, over 100,000 people that follow me. So it's like, I get it. And I get hate comments all the time. And oh yeah.
To me, I'm like, who is saying anything negative? Because all the stuff on your comments are like positive, you know?
Yeah, it's not directed towards me. It's always directed towards like Sarah J. Maas. Yeah. So it's like, but I mean, I'm facilitating an SJM content.
You're contributing to the conversation.
Yeah. Okay. So it's always that kind of stuff. And, my cat just came in. But so I would say it's split, where it's like, I'm conditioned a little bit in the fact of like, I literally make this voice and put hats on my head and like do stupid stuff all the time. And I'm pretty, like, I don't really care about like the public, but this is a little bit different because like some time went into it. And I also, and this is in no way trying to be like derogatory or like, I'm so bad at this. I know that I'm not like the strongest writer in the world. Like, I'm not trying to be, I'm not selling this as like a magnus opus of any kind. So it is a little bit, I guess, daunting to think about like the absolute way that some people, and I know it, are going to drag this through the mud. But in the weirdest way, I'm also kind of excited for them. I have no idea why. I feel like I would be the perfect guest for a celebrity roast, because I feel
like you'd lean into it. Like, you would be the person to be like, let me get all my 1-star reviews and make a post about like, yes, bestie.
Yeah,
like, it is the worst thing I ever wrote too.
Yes. And I want to read it out loud and be like, oh, y'all are freaking right. That was terrible. What was I thinking?
It's like the hate tweets that Kimmel does, where people are just like reading like the worst possible. You were like, I mean, you already have like the thirst tweets that you do with the inner court and everything. So to do like a hate tweet equivalent, which just, you know, you have to laugh. I feel like you have to have a thick skin to laugh at it. And it probably also helps that this isn't like the first book that you've been writing. Like, you're just like, I'm gonna word vomit thoughts, feelings, whatever.
This is like my little gift to my followers that love my inner circle content. And like it genuinely is. It's like, look, it's just a group of people that this first book is, you just get to know so that they can do all the stuff that they do in my skits all the time. Like, and it's for you. And I love that. Because I thought about putting the other book that I wrote first, but just seeing how people react to certain characters and certain themes and certain things, I'm like, perhaps it should not be my debut, because the characters in a different book are very problematic and very morally black.
And like, there's just more depth and like seriousness in the conversation that those characters are having.
it's like, it's not like the depth that we're used to seeing in like character arcs. It's more of like an allegory to like addiction in real life. And so it's not fun and it's not good. And the character that is going through it doesn't see it as negative. So it's very much the outside characters responding to, it's dark, it's bleak, it's a mess. And so I'm like, people don't know me for that. And so that might be like pretty strong out the gate type of themes. So maybe I should like, boop, boop, boop. And I've always, from the inspiration of the book is the 7 seconds of Darcy helping Lizzie onto the carriage and the infamous hand flex, because how can a touch, just a singular touch, be so the world, the stars, the cosmos, like everything. And I'm like, I want to write something where that a single touch could be the universe to a character. And what if they just couldn't touch each other? How would that go? So, and dappled in with like some of the content that my followers are already used to seeing, as a debut. Yeah. But to answer your question, Laura, scared, but also not scared,
Scared but excited, like scared but slightly turned on, scared.
Like, what's the worst? They don't like it? Okay. Who cares?
No, I feel like people will read this and feel like, and I think that's also part of the things, I mean, obviously we've created inner court characters specifically of what we imagine the canon to be. We don't, the only thing that's canon is on the table, is on the paper, I'm sorry. Yes. We've just created more as the drunk aunt. Like, let's just create, like, there's these little things. And I feel like with A Forbidden Fate, as we start this adventure with everybody, it's a moment to, like you said, with your followers, it's a moment where people feel like, oh, I feel like I'm hanging out with Kaven. I feel like I'm going out for, I'm drinking a night out, I'm drinking, I'm hanging out with her and her friends. I feel like you get that. Yeah. That you feel that when you're reading this, you're like, oh, this is so fun. Like, I bet you this is exactly what it's like. Even if it's not what it's like, in there, it becomes like this canon that they've created.
Yeah. It is. It's definitely what it's like.
Look, when they're dancing on the tables, and I was like, yes, that's
that
me.
Is Cody and I. That's us. That's what we do. We're just hanging out. And that's the thing too. It's, again, like I'm saying, whenever I'm like pitching or advertising the book or whatever, I am not out here to be like, this is like such a good book. It's so good. Like, blah, blah. No, it's fine. But it's also like, this is my like little gift that I spent time, like how everybody else has poured gifts onto me. This is my little gift of like a breakaway from maybe the other stories where it's just like, here's some really fun, goofy characters that we've headcanoned for other characters, but now they actually exist on the page. Now it's not what we're interpreting them as. They're actually those characters in here. They're doofuses, they're goons, they're like, little shitheads, all doing things. And that's like one of my favorite things about book 2 as well, is that because Idalia in the first book, I'm like, she doesn't know what's going on, she doesn't know who she is, and that makes sense, like she's alone her whole life, whatever, and someone asks her, they're like, like, what is your, what's your purpose in life, like, what do you want? And she's like, I don't give a shit. Like, it's because you always meet characters in books that are like, they have an arc, they have something like to complete. But then sometimes when people go through so much, they're just like,
take it as it comes.
Yeah, like, I don't have a purpose. I'm just like here.
But her whole story, I mean, you learn from like the start of book 1 to the end of it, her world is kind of turned upside down, what she thought her purpose was, and truths that are unfolded.
Right.
She's just like, so has it been all a lie, or is it not a lie? There's so much in between. Where, where do you go from now?
Yeah. And she's like, so can I save my kingdom and become famous or not? Like, can I do the thing that I set out to do? Or is this just like blowing up in my face? And the thing that I like about her in book 2 is that you just realize that she is just a female torrent. Like, she does not care. I love her so much. Like, in book 1, I'm like, I love her because she's like my little, wide-eyed deer that's kind of like, but what's going on? And in book 2, she's like, I don't want to flick off the camera, but she's like, I don't give a shit what's going on anymore. I am here to do one thing and one thing only, and everything else can just kind of, but obviously that changes. But I like her in the beginning because it's just like her and Torrent. Oh my God. Power, friendship. I almost said couple, but power, friendship.
But that aligns with like the same relationship that you love. I mean, a lot of us love between Feyre and Cassian is,
yes.
I mean, I know me personally, I was like refusing. I'm like, I don't want to be a Cassian girly. He's such like a good best friend. Because I want to keep him in like the brother zone.
Right. And then you're like, I can no longer, he is out of the brother zone.
I can no longer like just a brother.
Mm-hmm.
That's, you know, but you love their friendship and how they look out for each other. And,
yes.
you know, I mean, I think people also overlook those platonic relationships as well.
Yes. And that's something that I love about Torrent and Idalia too, is that they are the first to become friends in this like group, because Torrent's easy, right? He's just like,
Torrent loves everybody.
He's a himbo. He's like, I ride for my group. I ride for who I'm loyal to. And that means I'll take out whoever. But like, if you're loyal to me, like, I got you, bestie. And it's really fun too, because he's also just like shooting his shot in every scene. And I love him.
No matter who it is, he doesn't care. It's very Stifler. Like,
yes, very much. He does not, yeah.
Sorry, that is like a dated like reference for anybody who's listening. Stifler's mom, like, right? Yeah, like people who are listening, they'd be like, "What's a Stifler?"
Stifler. Forget that we said anything. No, but yeah. So I love that. I love the characters. I love that they're just kind of, I don't know, because there's not so much of a strain on what they're supposed to be doing. They call them like, I've heard it say like they're called darlings, where it's like, if it's not advancing the plot, what's it for? And I'm like, shenanigans. That's what it's for. They're getting into shenanigans, and why not? And it should something happen that advances the plot with these shenanigans, great. But if not, I just want to see friends hanging out for one scene. Like, give me that before you blow them all to smithereens. You know what I mean?
Well, I feel like you hear about that in like Sarah J. Maas says that a lot with some of her cut scenes, or like, you know, the bonus chapters. She was like, her editor would just say, look, we got to cut it out. It makes no sense. But I mean, and I could say this now because you've read HOSAB, there was supposed to be a, Bryce and Hunt playing Mario Kart sort of video game scene.
Give me that. What do you mean?
And she was like, I was going on for pages, and her editor made her cut it. And she thought that it was going to make one of the bonus chapters, but I don't think it did. Mm-hmm. But she's like, but those are like what you're saying, like, I guess the shenanigans or whatever you want to call it. Those are the things you love. Like it doesn't add to anything except for your own fulfillment. But it does.
It does add, because it adds your love and your like, your attachment to these characters. And if anybody comes to me and says like, no, these scenes aren't necessary, I will literally send my this is my TikTok page. I literally got Book Talk famous from those scenes, like the cutout scenes of what the IC would do if they're trying to pick out a movie together, or what the IC would do if they're trying to, you know, decide on what bar to go to. Like all of these darling scenes playing Mario Kart. I could make a skit of that right now and get thousands of likes. So obviously it's like,
the darling scenes are, you want that.
Yeah,
you want that.
Yes.
I think everyone's just like hungry. Like we're just fiends, right? We're fiends for like, give us anything, morsels. Anything, like num. Like, I don't care. I don't care. Give me crumbs. Give me anything.
Yes. And that's why I think like in the first book, I understand not putting it in the first book, because I did cut out a lot of those scenes in the first book, because the characters haven't earned that, if that makes sense. It's like you're just trying to get to know them.
As the reader, right.
Right. I know them. I'm like, look at what they're doing. Aren't they so cute? But people are like, what? So, but like when you get further into the books, it's like, yeah, your characters do earn scenes to kick back and play more. I would have loved a scene with Bryce and Hunt playing Mario. Like, as y'all know, I'm a Hunt girly now. I know. I'm sorry, Laura. Mom, I can't look at the disappointment.
I want to hear more about that. I mean, I know
we can talk about it.
Wait.
Sorry. Yes.
I still want to.
Yes.
Okay. You mentioned being TikTok famous. Obviously, you are. You're a social media star, and you're a star in our eyes, of course.
Yes.
Would this book exist without social media?
Nope. So I wrote Master of the Crowns before TikTok was even a thing. But if you would have asked me, are you publishing this? I would have been like, for what? To spend money? Like, I write to write.
Right.
No, this book would absolutely not exist. And I wouldn't have even completed it without the constant encouragement of, because, this is America where we live, and it is a struggle. We barely have time to do things. And it's so awesome that we can even do this. But for me to get home and then go to a different place and spend hours writing would not have happened. It takes me 5 minutes to film a skit. It takes me, 3 months to write a book, a small one like this. So it wouldn't even be in the realm of possibility for me to write a book like this if it wasn't for the constant gassing up and hyping up of book talk. And that's why my acknowledgments is just for book talk. I'm like, Cody, you're great. Anyways, back to my main lover, book talk. Truly, you know what I mean?
So when you were writing when you were writing the first book, was it just like a solely an outlet for you with no concept of it being published? You just had this, I need to get like pen to paper sort of idea. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. I grew up in a house full of addiction. Like I was the parent of my house, and then also just like professionally and blah, blah, blah. So it was more of like I read fantasy. I've always read. And I just wanted to do an allegory of like addiction and like what it really looked like from like a fantasy point of view. And then it was just a story. I was like, damn, that's kind of good. Which subjectively good. Other people would be like, this is kind of psychopathic, like whatever. But
no, but I feel like also everybody's lived experiences through addiction are so different, and everybody, That is what it is.
So I'm still debating if I'll ever actually put that one out. But that was more cathartic. That was pen to paper. Just, I needed to create a space of like, and it also really genuinely helped me get closer to my like siblings and people in my life that are addicts, because I was like, I think I'm starting to get it. Like, I think I'm, there's like where we like categorize people, and like, I'm like, oh, I get it in a scholastic type of way, but like where I empathetically got it, where I'm like, oh, this is like something that's beyond your control. This is like where it actually really genuinely like humbled me, and where I really understood that addiction is a disease. Like it's a disease, and these people aren't, even if they're making choices. Anyway, I don't want to get too deep, but this book, The Forbidden Fate, would not have been done without book talk, because it's just a silly, y'all have read the first draft. It's a silly little like journey through the woods, and then you're kind of just like, what's going on? But yeah, book talk did it. And every time I would like go on Instagram or on TikTok, they were like, please write it. And so it was like, oh, okay, for you I will. Y'all spoil me, so if I can do something,
if you will write it, we will
read it. Yeah,
if you build it, they will come. That's it.
We're just like waiting. We're waiting, like buy it now. Even though there's pre-orders aren't up yet. Correct? Like I didn't miss the boat so there.
Close. Oh, well, I also, that's like another thing for like indie publishers. Like we don't know what we're doing.
Okay, well, that is a question that I was going to ask you. Okay. So this is coming out. Obviously, you have like a time frame for this. What has been the publishing like process, just as much as you can tell us? Just from this, like your first time, right? Like,
yeah, I'm truly like so spoiled and lucky, because I have like a manager, Kris Jenner. He just brought me a drink, as you saw. That's my husband. My husband is Kris Jenner, and he is like taking care of like as much as he can, the business side of it. But so as like an indie publisher that's never published before, like maybe if I was like a vet indie publisher, I could like give you, like I could just spit off the facts. But for me, it's like, it's almost like walking into a fantasy novel that you're just dropped into, and you're expected to know what's going on. And you're like, but I don't know what's happening. And there's so much more to it than is like the dream of writing a book is like, but then when you're trying to like actually publish a book, it's like, oh shit, this is a lot. This is a lot to do. And so I get questions all the time like this. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. What I can say is though, that basically your most important things that you need to consider are editors, MVPs, format editors, and then how you're going to put it out, whether it be Amazon, commercial. I think we're going through Ingram Sparks. Not sure yet. But it's a whirlwind. It's a lot. It's just a lot of research. Like the amount of time you write, you also have to spend that much time researching because you want to give it to people and you want to give it to people at the best price possible. It's just a lot. I still don't know. I don't know what's going on. Am I here?
I feel like that's really important though, because so often the dream is, as you said, like write a book. And it does seem now that the tide on social media is that a lot of people now are writing and releasing books. Right. Fantastic. We love this. But the process is different for everybody. So I think it's important that we kind of address the fact that it is different for everybody and it's a wild process and right. that it is just something that you are not prepared for, even though you have a vague idea of like what happens, right? Because
correct,
like shit is crazy. And it is just really interesting to me how many people kind of get discouraged, right? Like so many people, but like push through, right? Like, yes. It's really important. Even though like publishing can be very difficult. And like for someone like you who has a lot of followers and like you're still having to like, is there lingo? I'm sure there's lingo.
Oh yeah, there's lingo. There's total lingo. There's jargon. And I am like Rosetta Stone. I'm like, what? Like, there's things that I'm good at. There's things that I could like, I don't know. For me too, I also get asked the question like, well, Kaven, you have a bunch of followers. Why don't you just send it out to agents? Like, why don't you do traditional publishing? Because that's most people's dream is to be traditionally published and out there and have it taken care of, which would be great. That'd be great. But for me, I just want to maintain control over the story, if that makes sense. And like be able to do the shenanigans and be able to do like the things like this. And also for me, this is like an added benefit to my life. Like I come from a place of like complete privilege to know that like, I'm going to be okay if this doesn't make me money. And I want it to be as affordable and I want it to be as accessible as it possibly can. And for me to have my hands on the steering wheel to decide those things makes me more comfortable, even if I don't know what I'm doing, and I will figure it out along the way. And I'm sure I'll get better at it as time goes. But yeah, for any indie or any authors out there, like just keep going, even if it's like really confusing and daunting and harrowing and it's a lot and it's overwhelming. Your story still deserves to be told. And we're going to figure this out together because I still don't know what I'm doing. So we are collectively going to figure it out together.
Well, and you say keep control. And that is something that our very good friend Amber brought up when she was talking about her book and how very important it was for her to keep control of her characters and how in a traditional publishing setting, you might be asked to change aspects of your character and like, screw that because they're yours.
Bye.
Yeah. And
or the plot. It's also yours. Like, no.
Yeah. That's just completely unacceptable. So keeping control is very important. And as I'm looking through all of your characters, we have a very diverse, very lovely group here.
Yeah, I love them.
Right? Like that is something that is very important. So it kind of like ticks all of our boxes and it is very lovely. We know that the characters kind of wrote themselves as you've described it. Did they come to you like this fully formed? Yeah.
Oh, totally. And it's also, I won't say who, but like, it's also very validating to me to know that they came fully forward because y'all have brought up to me separately, when these two characters meet, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yes, like that's already happening. So like, for me, it's just a validation and a very, your characters are your babies. They're your babies. I mean, even when you're reading, the characters are your babies, but even more so when you're writing them, because they're coming out of like this little walnut-sized thing. And like, so for me, it's very important, like Amber was saying, to edify what she's saying, to keep control over what they do, what they say, where they're going. And I absolutely do understand the market, and that publishers are just saying like, hey, this is what will sell, and this is what will make it stronger. And this is,
big publishers.
Yes. I wouldn't say that they're paved with good intentions, but I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that they're trying to make more money and maybe in turn make you more money. And in this economy, that might be a smart thing to do. But at the same time, it's like, but at the cost of what? Like the story? Like, so what if mine's a little bit more jagged and a little bit more, I want it that way. That is this story. So, and with the characters, they came to me fully formed, and I was like, oh, yeah. And then when y'all were texting me and other people were texting me like, what would happen if blah, blah, and I'm like, I think you already know.
I'm so excited. Like, we're just, because you had said other people had came to you with characters X and Y. And I know like we have our separate chat. We were like, but what about like X and Z? And you're like, oh, it's so split. What about everybody? And we're like, whoa, maybe.
But I just love that though, because it's so affirming to me. I'm like, yes. Like y'all get it too, because that's how they write themselves. It's like you can see it in your head, and then whenever they actually meet, it's like, let me just leave the room. Like, let me just get on out of here.
Right on paper. Yeah. Whether they've met or not, you're like, you know what?
They're both so hot. They both get it. The girls that get it. And that's just what it is. And I love it because they get it.
You lead me to my next question, which would be, how comfortable are you writing spice, and where do you think the level of spice is going to go throughout this confirmed trilogy?
I am not comfortable writing spice at all. I think I'm trash at it. I think I have no idea what I'm doing, which is really not great for me and my confidence. But it's like, because I just don't, like when I read spice, I'm there. I'm like, and then when I write spice, I'm like, I feel like a school teacher is like over my shoulder, and I'm like, what do I say? But I've read a billion spice scenes and I'm still lost. I'm like, I don't know what to do. But when you're writing it, I'm like, yeah, well, I was in love with these people. I was, but anyways, so for me, I'm not comfortable writing spice. I thought that I would make it easier on myself writing a book or a series where they could not touch. But then I'm like, well, they need to have like an intimate moment in at least one time in book one, just for my sake. And then a couple of times later until whatever happens. But I found it actually harder because it's like, it's so like, I've read books where they can't touch yet. And then they eventually, so you get like kind of like a reward for it, but there's no reward in this. It's like, they literally just can't touch. And I wondered if people would appreciate that or not like that. And then as we were talking, I don't know if y'all remember in the group chat about, X and Z, it was like, well, potentially. And I'm like, but it's first person. So I don't know how to like even do that with other characters. I don't know. I think I figured it out. But in the first book, I'm like, there is a spice scene, but I don't know how to explain it to people because it's not like woo, 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 ha, cha, cha, but it's what they can do in the moment. And then they kind of snap back to reality. I don't know. What do y'all think? Y'all tell me.
I was going to ask, do you feel that there's a pressure to write spice?
Because it's so popular now.
Yeah. Smut
talk is its own thing.
More than anything else, I get the question, is there spice? If I say, ask me a question about my book, this is not an exaggeration, at least 400 of those boxes, is there spice? Chili pepper? Is there this? Is there that? Which is fine. I am not, y'all want to read spice? I get it. But there is a pressure. I mean, there would not have been the scene that's in there if it wasn't for, because this is my little thing so if they're asking for it, I want to be like, okay, yeah, I can put it in there. To me, there wouldn't have been there would have been a completely different dynamic happening in those last chapters. But I was like, you know what? C'est la vie. Let them have a little moment to themselves in a dingy cellar. Why not? But yes, I think there is a pressure. And I think that a lot of authors actually feel that, at least the authors that I've spoken to, because I have the great pleasure, and I'm sure you do too, like of Book Talk connecting you with so many authors. And there is a great pressure to put that in there.
So as an author who has written spice, what word just cannot, what can you not like? I
am good with everything. And I realize that I am in the minority of opinion here. I don't think there is a wrong word for it. I think that, like, at least with the male genitalia, with the female,
slick
there's
folds.
some ways, folds, don't like it, crevice, don't need to hear that. Like,
hatchet wound.
Please stop. And it's, but you know, if you want to write it, no judgment. Like, I get it. When you're in there, when I'm reading it, it's different than when I'm writing it. I think, like, at one point I called Brazen's because if it was in Brazen's point of view, because spoiler, the spice scene is in the female's point of view. But if it was in Brazen's point of view, there would have been very much, I don't know. Can I say these words on here?
Yes.
If it was in Brazen's point of view, cock, pussy, those kind of things would have been used because it's very like, yes.
He's a dude.
Yeah.
He's like, give me that. But then I'm like, Idalia, who's over here and like for the first time, like experience, I don't know that she would be like, yeah, look at his cock. I don't know. Maybe she would. But so I don't know. I get that people are like, they don't like this word. They don't like that word. They don't like that word. I'm more that way with female parts. I don't think there's really like two that I've read. I'm sure they're out there. I'm sure there's like words that they're using to describe a penis that I'd be like, what? Why? I just haven't come across it, thankfully, because a lot of the books I read actually don't have that much spice. So I don't know. I don't read books for spice. I know that most people like put that into their rating. They're like, it was good, but not enough spice. I don't need it. It's great if it's there. I'm not going to complain, but I don't look for it, if that makes sense.
That makes complete sense because if you want spice, there are so many options for you, right? Like there's so much fantastic spice out there. So just because, you know, it's not like a 5 doesn't mean anything, right? Like,
right.
That's important.
And also, like, everybody's spice level
is
and
different.
Familiarity is different because probably, like, I've read spice before or really, like, just, you know, spice in books. But up until ACOFAE, like, ACOFAE was the spice. I was flushed. I was fanning myself. But I was like, I thought I had read spice before, but apparently not. And then, of course, you know, and things have changed. You're just like... And then, of course, people are like, the spice level in this book was a 2. And I was like, a 2? Like, at the time of the release, I was like...
No, that's how I felt whenever I read A Court of Thorns and Roses and ACOFAE. I thought that was spicy. I was like, shoot, we get it. When I read A Court of Silver Flames, because we're so used to, like, how Sarah writes in the other ACOTAR books, I was like, Miss Ma'am, what it...
Well, it's like
brother zone. Out the brother zone. Cassian is no longer big brother.
No, he's still here. I was like, and that was one of the first things I was like, Laura, I don't think I'm as much of an as girl as I thought. And she's like, it's okay. And I was like, I'm sorry.
No, I understand it completely. And that's too, it's everybody, like, reader is subjective to spice level, but I also feel like characters are subjective to spice level. Like, sometimes it really doesn't make sense. And I can, it almost breaks the fourth wall a little bit whenever there's spice with certain, like, have you ever read Six of Crows?
Yes.
Like, can you imagine if Kaz,
no,
Inej,
no,
right? But like, there are some authors that have like, maybe not as well developed characters, but like those type of characters. And it's just like, why would they, what? Like, so to me, spice isn't always indicative of a good thing. I'm not complaining when it's there. But even in A Court of Silver Flames, which we had our talk about that, there was times that I was like, why? Yeah. Like, I understand that this is written in a hot way, ooh la la, but I am still kind of getting taken out of the story a little bit because its placement is so not good to me subjectively. I know other people have opinions about that, but like, I was not into it. I was like, no, this woman is covered in bruises. This woman was just blah, 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 whatever. So to me, it's indicative of, well, it's subjective to reader, but also to me, to characters. And so would I have with that? Yeah. Would I have with that book talk, put that spice scene in? Maybe, probably not. But I don't think that it takes, when I first wrote the spice scene, it was long and it was a very saturated piece. And then I read it and I'm like,
interesting choice of word.
Yeah. Well, I'll send you that little Google Doc. But it was very long. It was very intense. It was very intimate. And then I was like, this doesn't make sense where the characters are, though. Like it just doesn't. It only makes sense to me that my characters would do it when they did, because they're just like so worn out from their journey and they're like tired of pretending for 2 seconds and then they go right back to whatever. But like the piece that I wrote before it was changed, I was like, this doesn't make sense. Was it better in terms of spice? Yes. But was it better in terms of story? No. And so I feel like there's a pressure for authors to write in spice, but sometimes to me, it takes me out of the story. I'm like, this doesn't need to be here. I mean, they're hot. I'm not trying to say they're not hot, but it doesn't need to be here.
Well, I feel like that also adds to what we were talking about earlier. I don't know through the editing process if it's included or not, where you can take the spice out of the book, and because the book is the start of a plot-heavy trilogy, it doesn't take away from the story. You can remove the spice altogether, and the story and the plot and like everything is still there with the Forbidden Fate.
Yeah.
Well, and that's something that Katie Robert does really well in her Dark Olympus series, is that the spice has a reason. There's a reason for it. You know, it's emotional. It's whatever. It's like bringing people together, but it does like move the plot along. And she has said that she won't just like put spice in there for no reason, which I find very interesting because she's an author that is known for spice, but she will not. And that is just really like wonderful. And we love her for that. But it does make me like question now, how is your book classified, Kaven? This is not a YA. This is
No, it's NA.
NA? Yeah. That's awesome.
I would say, yeah, because there is one spice scene already. And that to me, as soon as there's a spice scene, it needs to be NA. Like, and it's not because I don't think that like, that's up to teenager and guardian to like find out what they're allowed to watch. Because I know as a teenager, I definitely watched and read explicit content, but like for me and for authors everywhere and for publishers, I think it's our responsibility to make sure that we're not trying to market for young adult or for children, something that is adult themed. Like that doesn't mean that they can't come in here and read adult themes. It's just that it needs to be explicitly known that there is a scene where there's spice and there's also vulgar language and there's also some kind of gore and this and that is adult themed. Sorry. And I think that it's up to the discretion of guardian and reader what to do, but this is NA.
I mean, you do that in like media all the time where you're like, viewer discretion is advised, whether it's a television show or a movie, you have different ratings. So why wouldn't you apply? Like books are just another form of media. So
yeah. There's a couple of YA books that I'm like, this is not YA. This is not YA. This is not YA. I don't know if they market it that way for like profitability. I don't know what the reason is, but it's not YA. Mine's NA. Even if it's only a few short scenes, it's still NA because those short scenes are in the book. So,
and it was because you have the familiarity in the background with writing the books. I've read adult books where I go, this doesn't necessarily have to be an adult, like this would go great in a middle school, or maybe, like this is just a healthy relationship where there isn't a miscommunication trope. Like I don't think it necessarily has to be for adults. Like if I read this at 13, I would be like, oh my gosh, like this is something that I would aspire to as an adult, and I think that sometimes when I use this in air quote, like relationships are involved, some publishers might be like, oh, well, that's definitely like an adult fiction or an adult romance when there's no spice. And where is that, I guess, qualifier? And I guess you said it with like, for you, the spice made it NA.
Yeah.
But if you took the spice out, would you consider it YA? Would you still just consider it just a general fantasy? I think we focus so much on the genres sometimes.
I do too. I think that for me, it's because all of my characters are over the age of 23, like every single one of them. So it's adults participating in the spice, and it's like a almost 30-year-old man. I don't know. For me, I'm like, I don't know that I would classify it as NA without the spice, because I don't think that anything else in my book is really outside of like a YA novel. But just for me, and this is just my subjective view, it's a 27-year-old dude whipping out his cock. So to me, adult.
And everyone's of legal drinking age. Well, legal for this world.
And everyone is of legal drinking age, and they're all getting drunk, even if they are not of age. They're getting drunk. So I don't know. I mean, again, I think that is contingent upon reader and guardian if you're, not an adult yet. And I just think that like, that's my conscience, just being like, hey, this is NA. Doesn't mean that, teenagers can't read it, because I think that they probably can. And it's probably a very mild, tame version of what they're used to reading. But it's still an A to me.
That just speaks to trigger warnings and content warnings, right? And the importance of that. Because if it's not YA, that doesn't mean that like somebody that would read YA cannot walk over there and go get it. It just means that they are fully aware when they open it of what is going on.
Yep.
And that is so important, because that is something that, I mean, we're all of a similar age. We didn't really grow up with that.
Nope.
So like Jess, you were saying like media on TV, when we got a little older, it was like TV PG, like TV, like you remember that, like TV MA or like TV teen or whatever, like all that. I
remember that.
Yeah, like all of that stuff.
That was a big thing when they brought
when
it
that
out
came
too, because
out.
it was never a thing. It was just, here's the show. You knew what you were watching or you didn't.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's that whole thing is really interesting. And then you're saying like, what is the like qualifier? There's a movie about like how movie ratings are done, and like the people that like vote on movie ratings. Is a documentary. Wow. That's really good. But speaking to like how we kind of focus too much on genres and stuff. We think that's just like marketing. We think that's like a money thing. Yeah, that sucks, right?
Yep.
Will there be a map?
Yeah. Big old map. I can show you a picture of it. I don't know if you can see it on here, but I could just send it to y'all.
Did you commission, or did you like hand sketch it out? Like how did that?
I commissioned. I can't draw or shit.
Oh, I would have loved.
Like I can show you all my hand drawn map.
Like that's what should go in the book, is the sketch.
The sketch.
I'm going to send you the hand drawn map, and I'm also going to send you the back of my book, because I think y'all will like it.
Yay.
And also, again, with like some of the added stuff, you do figure out where some of these things are. But in the second book, all of these things come to play. So like, basically, this is the map for the first and second book. And then the third book, little Oceania over here, will be a little bit more filled out. Gosh. But isn't that great?
That's so cool. Did you freak out?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I thought it was so... I was like half asleep when it was sent to me, but the person that I worked with, they were so cool. They genuinely just understood exactly like my ramblings, and they created this. And I was like, oh, you are the most talented human being in the world. Interesting. But yeah. And then whenever we're over here, you can read the back of the book, because I love it.
At this point, Laura tells me that there was an hour and a half of drunken rambles about something called a HOSAB. I don't know what that is, and it scares me.
Thank you so much, both of y'all. I love you very, very much.
We love you.
It's very exciting that y'all wanted to talk to me. even more exciting that y'all wanted to talk about my book. And also, I will ramble about anything and everything with y'all any day of the week. So,
so excited.
Just let me know when y'all want to do this again.
Absolutely.
You're always welcome. You know that.
Thank you for making time for us.
Yeah.
Bleh. Bleh. I love y'all. I love y'all so much.
Go say hi to everybody for us.
Okay, I will. Bye. I love y'all.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Kaven, for joining us today. Make sure you're following Kaven on all her socials to stay up to date on all things A Forbidden Fate. That includes her socials, TikTok and Instagram with the same handle at Kaven_books. We'll make sure those are in our show notes. And as always, please feel free to follow us on Instagram, ACOFAE Podcast, and we're both found on TikTok, ACOFAE Laura and ACOFAE Jessica. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.